Setting up ashes of creation for the first time can feel a little overwhelming, especially if you don't know which settings actually matter. And there are a few key options most players miss on day one. I'm Flanker, and today I'll try to help you avoid a headache and save some time. Now let's quickly go over settings. So let's click escape and game options. There are several tabs here. Let's go over this real quick. So everything is pretty straightforward. Sound, display, resolution, graphics, right? So when it comes to graphic, there's one specific setting that I want you to pay attention to, which is global illumination, right? So sometimes lighting behaves in a weird way in the game, and in order to fix the vast majority of the problems, all you have to do is to change your global illumination. So since I'm playing on Epic, if I have some weird artifacts related to light, I just switch it to medium or high or anything like that. Sometimes it happens. I don't know if it's going to be fixed, but there is a very easy solution, which is changing this setting. Luckily, right at the moment I was recording this video, I actually had the lighting issue I just mentioned. Perfect timing, and here is how you can easily fix it. Let's move on to the gameplay tab, and specifically combat. So there's a number of important settings here that I want you to take a look at. So the first one is auto attack. There's a number of options here. You can let your character do the basic attacks automatically after either a melee ability or a ranged ability. So usually I keep this on for PvE, but when it comes to PvP, I turn it off. Why? Because I don't want my character to do something that I didn't ask him to do, right? I want to have full control over everything that my character does, right? The next one is PvP. These settings are very important. They are also a little bit confusing, but bear with me. So there are three basically checkboxes, and by default you want to have the first and second option checked, right? So this is basically PvE settings that will allow you not to accidentally hit another player or flag or accidentally heal someone who is a combatant, so that you will also become a combatant, right? So this is the PvE settings pretty much. However, if you want to PvP, what you will need to do is to replace this checkbox with this one, right? So this way you will not have to toggle PvP. You will be able to attack any combatant without any extra steps. And obviously you will also be able to attack people with your AoE abilities that you're not targeting, right? So all combatants that will be within the range of your AoE abilities will take damage. So it may be a little bit annoying. That is true. So the way to make this process of choosing the settings smoother, you can always type PvP in the search bar, right? Go a little bit up. And let's say you have these default PvE settings at the start. So what do I normally do if there's a chance that PvP might be happening? I just type PvP, I have these settings here, and I drag this window down here, right? So it doesn't block anything important. And then when the time comes, I just do like this, and boom, done. I hope Intrepid will do something about it, because it's not very, user-friendly, and to be honest, sometimes it's very annoying, but it works, so it is what it is for now. Let's go back to the combat settings and scroll down, and here you can see the options to customize the damage text. I usually keep it as default because I don't really care, but if you, for example, if you're colorblind, you might play with it a little bit, change the colors, change the size, etc, etc. Moving on to the targeting tab, there's a number of settings here as well, but I want you to pay attention to this one, allow dual defensive and offensive target lock. So normally I have this option off, but if there is PvP, or if you're playing a class like a cleric, for example, you will need these settings to be on. So what does it do? For example, there is a goblin right here, and his health bar and panel will appear at the top of my screen. Let's say this guy is my ally, and if I click on him, his health bar and his buffs and debuffs will appear down here. So I can basically target two people, one enemy and one ally. So if you're a cleric, that's very useful. If you are fighting in PvP and this guy is your the main shot caller, you can have him here so that you can instantly click a hotkey and target his target. So yeah, this option is pretty useful. Moving on to party and raid options, pretty much these two options are the ones that you want to keep in mind. So some people prefer to have a party frame, some people prefer to have raid frames. Depending on your preferences, you can either turn this option on or off, right? And the same applies to your raid window. If you want your group members to be shown in party frame, this is where you need to click. Next, we have key bindings and a number of tabs available here, right? So when it comes to movement, everything is pretty straightforward, and I would say that the same thing applies to action bars. Everything is pretty much the same as you see it in other games. But moving on to targeting, there are a few settings that I would like to highlight. So first one is target nearest enemy. You want to use this keybind because, for example, if you're in a building or there is some terrain that blocks your vision and you're wondering if there are mobs or if there are people out there, you can just basically aim in that direction, turn your character looking that way, and scan the area by clicking target nearest enemy. It has a pretty long distance, maybe like, I don't know, 50 to 100 meters or something around that. So this is a very, very useful one. Moving next, let's take a look at these two. There is target of target and target of defensive target. So this one is currently work in progress from what I understand. We don't use this one, but the target of defensive target is very, very useful, especially in PvP, right? So we already spoke about how to enable dual targeting so that you have a target that you're attacking and a defensive target. So if you have a defensive target and that player is targeting something, if you have this keybind and if you click on it, you will automatically target his target. This is very useful in PvP, so make sure to have a keybind for this feature. So then we have target party members. I don't really use that, but maybe clerics do. And also applying raid markers. This is useful in both PvE and PvP. So raid marker 1 to, like basically from 1 to 8, and you can see them here. So if you click mark, you will have 8 markers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? And the final option here is PvP force flag. This one is a little bit tricky, so bear with me. I have set it to Alt F, but you don't just click Alt F. That's the tricky part here. So the way to activate that is I click Alt and I hold it, and then I click F and release both. And you see, I'm force flagged right now. But if you want to turn this off, you do it backwards. So I click F and hold it, then I click Alt and then release both. Boom, it's gone. If you just click Alt F, sometimes it works, like it works for the first time, and sometimes it doesn't. So you will have to click it a number of times. Actually, it's working better now from what I see, but previously it was like the only way to fix it. Next, we have interface menus, and the first thing that you see here is 4 interact buttons. You may be wondering, why do we need 4 interact buttons? Trust me, I've been asking the same question, but it is what it is for now. So the first one, I have it as F, interact 1. It's the interact button that you use to talk to NPCs, to vendors, to do gathering and stuff like that. So this is an important one. The third one is also important because it allows you to basically mount, dismount. I have it assigned as G. Interact 2 and 4, they are used in some dialogues for some options with NPCs. I have them as F6, F7. I don't really use them. I just prefer to use my mouse. So basically, you need interact 1 and interact 3. So the first one is interacting with NPCs. The third one is interacting with your mount. Right, there's a few other options here, but everything is pretty simple and straightforward. In fact, these two at the bottom might also be useful, but it depends. So when you have pop-ups during PvE and you drop some items or materials or whatever, you might want to have these keybinds for greeting and passing on everything. I don't really use them because I use my mouse, but maybe I actually should start using that because it kind of saves a lot of time and helps to get rid of those windows that are sometimes a little bit annoying. Next, we have camera settings. There is pretty much only 2 options available here. So zoom is this, pretty straightforward. And toggle action mode, I don't have this keybind because I don't use action mode, but a lot of players do, like especially tanks, rogues, fighters. So for that purpose, you might want to have a keybind here so that you will be able to switch from tap target to combat mode. The last tab is miscellaneous. We have a number of options here. So for unstuck, you don't really need a keybind because you can always click escape and basically click unstuck there. Tooltip lock and compare. These are kind of useful, especially tooltip lock. So for example, if you open your skill tree, your character skill tree, and hover over this skill, and you see that this skill applies burning, and you're like, okay, what is burning? What does it do? Right? But you can't hover over it. So then you can just click the tooltip lock keybind, lock it, and hover over it, and you will see that burning deals some extra damage per second, right? So this is what you need that keybind for. As for mount flourish, if you are on a mount, then you can click this keybind and mount will do something like some sort of animation, depending on the mount. Moving on to the interface, and specifically General tab, I would recommend checking these two boxes so that you can mark stuff on the map for your group members. Speaking of HUD, we will talk about it separately. As for nameplates, the first thing that you might want to do is to max out the nameplate display distance for both players and NPCs. So this way you will be able to see them from the max distance. Then we have three separate tabs here for allied players, PvP players, and NPCs. So usually you want to see the nameplates of your allies always, not when targeted, or obviously don't choose never, because you want to have info about them and see also their HP bars, obviously. Right? Here's a separate thing for the group members. Then when it comes to PvP, you also want to see the health bars of the enemies, right? Because it gives you a lot of info. But I don't do the same for mounts because at the same time I want to keep the number of useful nameplates with relevant info as low as possible, right? Because I don't really care much about the HP of a specific mount, right? I care about the players, right? For corrupted players, it's the same thing. And for NPCs, they're friendly, they're enemy NPCs. So for example, for friendly NPCs, I only see their HP when it's below 100% because like here's an example of friendly NPCs. If I change it to always, then I will see their health bars as well. I don't really care much about their health. Probably that makes me a bad person, but I prefer to keep it below 100%, right? Not to overload my screen. And the last step here is action bars. Everything is pretty simple here. You can choose the action bars that you want to see and also make a choice whether you want to see empty slots or keep them transparent. So nothing difficult here at all. Okay, next we have the chat options. So the first option is background opacity. Pretty straightforward. You can play with it and choose the one that you like the most, right? Then we have the text colors. Once again, nothing complicated here. You can also customize the combat logs tab. So basically every action you do will be logged here in combat tab, right? So you can also adjust the colors here. Usually I don't do anything with this because like I don't care, right? But maybe you do. Then we have tabs, several tabs for the chat. So general, social, combat, trade, looking for a group, and you can choose which information and which messages do you want to see while using a specific tab. Finally, the last tab is accessibility and visuals. Once again, nothing to explain here really. Everything is pretty straightforward, and I'm pretty sure you're perfectly capable of choosing the options that you prefer by yourself. Now let's quickly go over the HUD editor, right? So as you can see, there's a number of panels and different action bars and stuff like that. Right, so everything is pretty customizable here. So let's take this one, for example. We can move it freely. There is a small icon here that we can click on and, for example, scale or just, move it. We can choose whether we want to see the grid or not, right? If that helps you, feel free to use it. And also we can choose this option, snap to grid. So now we can move our tabs freely and put them wherever we want them to be. But if you click here, then it will basically get sticky to some parts of the grid, right? So I don't know how to explain that properly in English, but I guess you see the difference, right? So going back, I can put it anywhere I want, but with this option on, it's gonna basically work like this. So once again, not much to explain here. Everything is pretty straightforward. Once you've done working with a specific tab, you click save. I obviously won't, because I don't need to make any changes. And once you complete doing whatever you want to do, you will need to click confirm to save all the changes you made. I obviously don't need to save anything, so I'll just click cancel. If this video was helpful, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. I am Flanker, and I'll see you soon.